I'm Gayle Oram, and I enjoy rosemåling, which is a Norwegian folk art from old. People painted on wood and different useful items that they had around their home, mostly bowls and plates, cupboards, trunks, different things like that. Each one is kind of different, and there's so much to learn that you never get tired of painting it. Well, since the 80s, I've been painting. It started in the 70s, I guess. We moved to Petersburg, Alaska, so there was nothing there. People were painting those panels. They had them on business sides or underneath, wherever they could fit some rosemåling. And so that's the first I'd seen it. And so that group of painters that I started up there is still painting. It was so unique and different than anything I'd ever seen. So then I wanted to know more about it. Where did it come from? And then you start looking into the history of it. It started maybe in the late 1600s. They had a celebration. They would do chalk drawings on the walls for decoration. People from Europe came up and were invited to decorate their old churches. So the people in the pews looked at it and they started thinking, oh, I'd like to try that. They started making their paint, but they had to mix it all themselves, from the minerals in the ground with oil, usually just red from iron oxide and the ochres and umbers. And so the colors were not real vibrant. Well, in the middle 1800s, then they started manufacturing paint in Europe, and so then it traveled up to Norway. And the blue was non-existent before. The Prussian blue was the cheapest blue, so that's what they used. And so we still use those colors today to make it look more authentic. Each area of Norway had a different style, and there's like 13 that we know of. Even one city or town could have a different style from the next town because of the artists that lived there had different ideas. And so I thought I wanted to write a book on all the styles. And my husband says, well, don't you think you should go to Norway and study this before you write a book? And I almost fainted because he wasn't the type to say that. And so that's what we would do. Vesterheim Museum takes tours to Norway because then you get to take a class from a real Norwegian. Those are really special. Definitely had a big impact, especially when you get to go see the old pieces in person. I was always sketching things, and making notes and taking pictures. So then you bring all that home and then you study that again and that leads you to something that you're going to paint.
I think there's a lot of value in keeping that old work alive. And so there's a lot of attention spent to study the old books and the old ways and make sure that it stays authentic. I'm Patty Jo Meshnick, and the art that I do is the traditional folk art of Norway called rosemåling. I was living in Eugene and was connected to Sons of Norway. Through that, I met Gayle Oram. I was in awe of her. In the world of rosemåling, she's very renowned and respected. And I would just drink in every stroke she made, how she blended, how she loaded her brush. She invited me to come out and learn from her. This apprenticeship was quite amazing to be part of. I took on some big projects, 2 specific big ones. And one was a chair that's called a kubestol that the Norwegians carved. And it had come from Norway. And it was big and very intimidating. And it was so good to say, Gayle, help. And then she was so good at helping critique it and move me along. The other project was an heirloom trunk that had emigrated with my friend's grandfather in the late 1800s. And the style she wanted, which is the location her grandfather's from, is Numedal. And that's a style that I really don't know much of. I couldn't even figure out where to begin. We start with chalk, and Gayle says, oh, it needs to start here, and off we went with the design. When we do the designs, they have to balance the color and the weight of the color and the elements of the scroll or the flowers, and then the line work has to not be too much or too little. It has to help fill in the spaces, so it looks like a complete piece. But there's just a lot to go into that planning. And I kind of had to go from a beginner to have a sense of mastery in my Numedal. It's like, wow, I got to be part of this. It was really a special thing to do. And I do look forward to sharing it with Norma. I think she's going to be very tickled.
People started immigrating to America and they brought these beautiful trunks with them. Then the people here started looking at it, and now it's really flourishing more in the United States than in Norway. There's more people painting it here than there. Well, a lot of it's because the Norwegians like to go back to their roots. But other people just like it too. I think it's the colors and the flow of the strokes. So that's what I've been doing now, is mostly Zoom classes. I just taught a group from Illinois, Rosemålers, but the people live all over the country. And then last month I did a group from Japan for 2 days, 2 different groups. So, you know, it's nice.
I love that I'm keeping this tradition going. So I always think that my grandma is part of my painting, and my mom.
If you have a tragedy or anything like that, if you can delve into your painting, it really helps, kind of a therapeutic type of thing. And it's so flowing and so graceful that, you know, you can't not help like it.